afternoon, Mets fans, and welcome to a Friday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and I'm coming at you today because not that long ago it was officially announced that the Mets signed a pitcher to a major league contract. That pitcher is none other than the guy that I thought the Mets were going to sign, and that is Jason Vargas. I want to talk about being right today, which doesn't happen very often for me, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. As I mentioned earlier this week, last week, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, I thought the Mets needed to get some starting pitching depth, in addition to the offensive help that they needed to get in the offseason to really consider this offseason a success. And I've been talking about Jason Vargas as the target for a little while now, and it makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, Dave Island. I think that's the most important reason of all of them. Dave Island is the guy that worked with Jason Vargas, got him back to really, I don't want to say like dominant fashion. The guy's never been dominant. His numbers last year are almost scary if you look at them. His first half numbers were great. He was on my fantasy team last year, but he had a really high strand rate, so he ended up allowing a lot of base runners. His ERA was super low in the first half of the year. He was an all-star last year. I think he had like a 2.2 ERA before the all-star break. After the break, his luck changed a little bit, and his ERA ballooned up to over 6. And his strand percentage went down big time. So I'm not making a good case as to why I thought this was the right decision, but my decision on this was the fact that Dave Island was the guy that got him back from Tommy John surgery, that brought Vargas back. And look, last year was his first full season since Tommy John surgery, so it stands to reason that he did sort of fatigue a little bit as the season went on, and that could explain the numbers drop off in the second half of the season. You can't argue the fact that in the first half he was fantastic. The other reason I like this pickup is that Vargas does have the option to be a swingman, where he can be a left-handed relief pitcher. He is a lefty, so he could be a left-handed relief pitcher or a spot starter. And it sounds as though at this point in time he's going to compete for a position in the starting rotation from the day the season starts. So that'll be an interesting dynamic. I think Steven Matz, this is sort of a fire to be lit underneath Steven Matz. He had the luxury of being sort of the only lefty available to start, and now with Vargas on the payroll, that's no longer the case. You know, Matz has a little bit of competition as it pertains to left-handed pitching. This is a good thing. I think Matz is the kind of guy that does need to be a little bit motivated and have a little bit of push behind him to sort of say, hey, this is your chance, kid. Let's make the most of it. Let's stay on the field. Let's stay healthy and do what we have to do that. The other reason I really liked Jason Vargas was that I did not think he was going to require the kind of contract he ended up getting. So the contract the Mets signed Vargas to is a two-year deal, $16 million, with a third-year option for, I believe, $8 million. Vargas is 35 years old. He's not a power pitcher by any means. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He averages less than a strikeout per inning. But he is a stable type pitcher. And those are the kinds of guys that are getting money these days, it seems. So with the 3-year deal, I didn't expect, or a 2-year deal rather, I didn't expect that. I expected it to be a 1-year deal, maybe worth $10 million. The Mets ended up paying him for 2 years of service, less than $10 million a year. But I was a little surprised to see that second year included, and it wasn't like a 1 year plus 1 year option on top of it. So I didn't think that was going to cost the team as much, which was why I was really clamoring for Vargas to be the guy. But I think more than anything else, and this ties into my understanding of the way Sandy Alderson thinks and works, Sandy does not like to give up draft picks, and I think we've seen that across the board with his statistical background as far as like who he signs. He doesn't like to sign guys that have that qualifying offer attached to them because it costs a draft pick. And signing a Lance Lynn, or an Alex Cobb, as we've discussed numerous times ad nauseum, that was going to cost the Mets a draft pick. So for me, I thought that Vargas was the better fit because the contract would be smaller and it wouldn't cost the draft pick. So I got 1 out of 2 right on that one. But at the end of the day, I'm really, really pleased to see Vargas joining the Mets. I think he'll be a welcome addition. I think he'll be a great piece to have in both the rotation and in the bullpen, and I'm hoping that does happen this year. As a whole, the offseason sort of wrapping up, spring training is underway. You've got to be a little bit impressed with the way Sandy Alderson has built this team for 2018. Look, I know everybody's out there in Negativeville saying Vargas is going to get hurt and he's injury prone, and Sandy doesn't give out big money contracts. But look, he's signed 5 free agents this offseason. And I don't think he was kidding when he said the Mets have been busier than most other teams. They really have. The Mets have signed a lot of players, and a lot of good players they've signed. They didn't make a big Giancarlo Stanton splash. Okay, and I don't think that the Mets had to do that. But what they did is they went out and they acquired 5 good pieces that will help the team. Todd Frazier, Jay Bruce, Jose Reyes, Anthony Swarzak, and now Jason Vargas. Not to mention the Adrian Gonzalez bargain basement pickup for $500,000. So at the end of the day, I think it's safe to say that the Mets had a pretty productive offseason. I think on paper, what they've done should translate to success on the field. But of course, the game isn't played on paper, it is played on the field. So as I said a couple days ago, spring training games begin a week from today. The first spring training game of 2018 is next Friday. I can't wait to see this team on the field. I think it's more because I just miss baseball so much, but I'm looking forward to it. So I appreciate you watching the video today. Welcome to the Mets to Jason Vargas. Can't wait to see the team and him on it. So thanks again for watching. As always, follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And until next week, let's go Mets.